Good evening, my friends. I had a client give me another great idea to talk about creating calming visualizations, especially if you've never experienced calm before, because that would make that tricky. So I had some very, I don't know, I want to say unorthodox ways of doing it, but they were very effective. So I wanted to share some of those ideas as well as some other ideas that of just how to make rounds more calming in general. So, to start, if you have never experienced true calm, start with one thing that makes you feel grounded, at least. So, what I did was, and this is the case for I think pretty much all of us, calm is something that lives more in the body. It's a grounded state of being able to be in your body. And those of us who've had LSI, had a limbic injury, or had trauma, a lot of times being in your own body or being grounded feels terrifying to the limbic system. And it feels very unfamiliar to the nervous system. So it can be very alarming to be in your own body. And that really, it's your lower three chakras. And if you don't like the word chakra or don't know what that is, your nervous system is, your spinal cord goes down, and that's where all of the nerves attach to your whole body. And it's essentially like the chakras are energy centers, but they go literally along the spine, the spinal cord. So it's your lower three. So like the point kind of in the middle of your stomach, just below your belly button and down by your tailbone. That part of that whole lower part of your body, your torso, that's the part you want to find a sense of like warmth or peace or groundedness, or even like a slight burning, like positive burning sensation, almost like there's a sun shining inside of you. Those kinds of feelings, and just feeling warm and relaxed in that area is like any of those areas, any of those three kind of points, anywhere in your torso, or your pelvis, torso and pelvis. And so what I did was, because I'd never been grounded before in my life, I would do things like visualize being a tree and feel how grounded that felt, because a tree is grounded. And this is where the client we were talking about this, and she mentioned fantasy rounds, which I used a lot of, but I was explaining how, to me, fantasy rounds are actually were more real than regular rounds in a lot of ways, because there were so many experiences I had never had of healthy neurology that, for me, using almost mirror neurons from nature was actually like more effective for helping me have new neurological experiences that were healthy than trying to visualize something that my brain literally couldn't produce, because there was no wires for it. There was no pathway. There was nothing there. So I would do things like pretend I was a tree and feel what it would feel like to be that grounded, and like how strong the trunk would be. And part of it too is so that there's a whole lot of nerves down by by your sacrum, kind of in your pelvic area, and they connect to your feet. So imagining being a tree and connecting to the ground and having that rooted feeling really does activate quite a lot of positive nerve activity and neurological activity, because all of that connects to your brain. So, and it really can, how do you want to say this? Lead to a lot of very soothing sensation and healthy neurological patterns in that region of the body and brain that's attached to it, that helps you feel grounded and helps you feel safe being in your body, and it just activates those neurological pathways and makes them feel comfortable for you. So, and I would so I did a lot of things like that. I would also, there was at one point where I did a visualization of rocking in a rocking chair, and literally I would do the same past and future, and I would just be sitting in this rocking chair, and the entire time all I was focused on was the fact that there was a pillow behind my back that was pressing on like the back of my solar plexus, so just like the center of my back, and I would like feel the pressure of it and how it kind of went through to the front of my stomach, and just focus on like how it just made my whole body relax. It's happening right now. It's like my whole body would just be like, oh yeah, okay, that's relaxing. And so I would do 50, I would do the past and future, and I would kind of like talk a little bit about, oh, it's raining outside, or like I have a blanket on me, and occasionally focus on the rocking, but most of it was just focused on this imaginary pillow behind my back and the sensation that put through my solar plexus. So yeah, it just picking a sensation. Even when I did rounds with my kids who were triggers at the time, um, I would imagine them sitting in my lap, and I would just focus on like the sensation of the heaviness of their weight on my leg, because I have twins. So I'd imagine like one twin sitting on each leg, and I would focus only on the feeling of the weight and how weighted I felt. And I was technically reading them like a Dr. Seuss book in this visualization, but the only thing I was really focused on was how weighted and safe I felt, because I wanted my limbic system to feel like my kids were safe. So everything else was kind of like icing on the cake, and the main thing was just literally like that was it, just feeling weighted. I also did bathtub, like hot, warm baths in dark places with like maybe a candle, where a lot of the sensation was on feeling warm, really warm, and focusing on the candle and just sinking as much as I could into the sensation of relaxing into the heat, and just the visual and creating a storyline around it. I would pretend it was like a womb, because there was just this point in my recovery where I was like, I needed a lot of womb type feelings, and almost like, yeah, a lot of red, like very placenta, very, very much like being back in the womb again. And it was really helpful to just kind of, that warmth can be very soothing for the limbic system. If you've been in fight or flight or freeze for a long time, doing visualizations of being really warm and relaxed can work wonders for your limbic system and your nervous system, at the right time, of course. So those are some ideas. And again, you can kind of, there's so many different things you can do. You can change up the details of things. You can kind of let your imagination run wild in a positive way with, allowing things to just unfold and seeing what happens. But those are just attaching the visual to a sensation can make it very grounding and calming. The other thing that I found very helpful, and I suggest people doing, and part of this is you want to be more attached to your practice than your perfectionism. So I recommend, doing an hour of practice a day. Again, depends on which program you're using. I think Gupta is a bit more lenient and DNRS is a bit more strict, but I think that having that committed, in my experience, having the 1 hour committed practice time is the magic number. What you're practicing is healthy neurology. So if something is more, if there's more, the most effective way to be in a healthy neurological state is going to be the best way to practice on any given day. So if you're in more of a flight state and you have a lot of extra adrenaline, then doing something like taking a walk while you do a round and being able to be outside where your body's moving, that adrenaline has somewhere to go. There's, nature to look at, and there's people and dogs and, whatever. There's like kind of stuff to keep your overactive limbic system occupied so you can focus on visualizing, can actually be helpful. When you have the flight activated, multitasking in that way can actually be more effective than trying to just focus on one thing at a time, because the fight brain has way too much busyness happening in it to be able to focus. It needs something to keep your body busy, and then that can be super helpful. So I did that for a period of time. That was like the only way I could do rounds for a short period of time, because sitting down, it was like it wasn't going to happen. You can also play with, I sat for most of when I did practice visualization for almost my entire recovery, I sat upright on the floor in like in the cross-legged position. And that was the most effective for me, because I found standing, I just felt like I was going to fall over, and way too much of my energy was focused on trying to stand up and not fall over. It was really hard to relax and visualize. So I sat upright where I wasn't going to get sleepy, but I also was like, I could close my eyes and focus without feeling like I was going to fall over. And then later on, when I was really getting into calm, and actually my body, the flight had calmed down enough to be able to feel calm laying down, not doing anything, and not needing a lot of like visual stimuli from watching, a movie or comedy or something like that. And I would do Brown's laying down, because I was teaching myself to get into a deeply relaxed state without falling asleep, which is a useful skill and a very healthy, healing neurological state to be in. So play around with things like that, like your body position, and again, doing buddy rounds, if you have access to that, can be super helpful. Doing rounds with other people, can be really helpful from time to time to help create even more safety in that environment, having someone else around, using music during rounds so that there's kind of almost like almost like an energetic bath to hold you. Like there's something there. There's sounds, there's warmth, especially again like warm, relaxing, soothing music that just kind of helps you feel like you're not alone and you're already kind of in that like there's soothed state, and that can really make a big difference in helping the visualization stay on track so that you feel supported already, and then you can kind of go into your visualization. So those are, I think that's it. Those are my tips for creating creating calm if you've never experienced it before. So and it's fun. Like one of the biggest things too with that was the last thing. Yes, okay, there was one more thing. The video I just posted before this called Loving Movement, it was a kind of demonstration of this, but there were times where for me doing a round, like doing visualization wasn't available, so I was like, I need to do something. So I would put on like some really meditative music and find something that I could tell my nervous system could engage with, because it's kind of like a matter of matching up what's happening in your limbic system and nervous system, and like whether you feel agitated or whether you feel more on like the depressed or freeze state side, and the tempo and the overall feel of whatever the visualization or the music or whatever it is you're doing. We crave different experiences at different times to get ourselves to a state of equilibrium. So sometimes you might crave something that's almost like dark and a bit stormy feeling, or maybe you crave something that's very juicy and almost romantic feeling, and sometimes it's more light and childlike. So it doesn't, I mean, there's no right. It's a matter of finding what your nervous system can engage with that helps it feel calm and regulated, and more in that equilibrium state. So there was a lot of times where I would turn on a song and I would just put on a repeat for like 20 minutes, set a timer, and start moving very slowly and just allow my body to kind of move as it wanted to the music, and do whatever, whether it was like yoga poses or just standing still swaying and kind of just moving, and like and a lot of times it was very slow movement. Also I did this laying down and sitting up at different points, when doing it standing would have been too much. But adding that kind of rhythmic movement is so powerful, and really getting into your body and being able to it's just a whole different brain state when you put all of your consciousness in your body and into that movement and into the music. And there were times where that was the most effective form of practice that I could have utilized, and that played like that sort of mindful, loving, integrated movement, intuitive movement played a really big role in my recovery. So that's something that I offer as a different practice to throw into the mix, because one of the other things too is to realize that creating recovery is a process, and visualization is part of it, but and it's an important part of it, a very important part. But having a positive association to your tools is more important than anything else, because we're going to experience resistance in the journey. Like your brain's going to resist changing, and being able to keep it fresh and create an enjoyable experience for yourself, and then stay committed to that practice and to that hour of practice a day and to doing what you actually need is much easier. Like that's doable. Trying to conform yourself to a structure, especially again, because most people take a few years to recover. So trying to conform yourself to the same exact structure for that long it's not sustainable. The human brain needs more variety than that, more variety of experiences than that in order to heal and be well-rounded. So I just encourage you to play with that and be more committed to yourself and to your recovery and to your practice, and be open to doing different things during that time to work with your system where it's at with what it needs, so you keep moving forward. Because a lot of times I see people just kind of give up on their practice if it's not working or they're having a lot of resistance, and there's just a lot of different ways you can play with things to keep it fresh and interesting for yourself. So that's what I recommend doing instead of giving up. And like again, instead of having a perfectionist pop about I have to do whatever program I'm doing exactly the way it's laid out. It's like being committed to yourself and your recovery is far more important. And again, the tools are meant to serve you, not the other way around. So if it's not working, it may very well be the fact that you've outgrown those tools, using them in the way you were, and you need more variety and more depth to your practice. And that it's not your fault that that's happening. I mean, limbic resistance is real, but we need to work with it instead of just trying to hammer your way through it. Because again, if something's clenching up, hitting it just makes it clench up more. So fighting with your resistance is just going to create more resistance. It doesn't work. So I hope this is helpful for those of you learning how to calm for the first time. And yeah, all of my encouragement and love to you on the journey, because oh my god, calm is the sweetest experience there is. So enjoy the journey, and happy travels. I'll talk to you guys soon.